Have you heard people say, she has her mother's eyes and a father's height, or he looks a lot like his grandfather? What do they mean? We notice that there are certain resemblances in the offspring from their parents or grandparents. Features such as the color of the eyes, shape of the earlobes, dimples on the cheek, and height are examples of what is called a trait. These traits are transmitted from the parents to their young ones from one generation to the next. This is known as heredity. The study of the mechanism of transmission of the traits from parents to the next generations is called genetics. It comes from the word genes. What is a gene? Recall from your previous lesson that the DNA is the blueprint for life. It is a molecule that carries all the necessary instructions needed for the development and growth of all living organisms. Stretches in the DNA strand are called genes. They hold the information to build and maintain cells. Remember the analogy of DNA to a recipe book for making proteins. Then, genes can be compared to topics in the book. Was that too many terms to remember? Confused? Here is an example to clarify it better. Firstly, the DNA must possess information for a protein. This information is called as gene. The protein forms the enzyme responsible for height by producing the hormone which regulates the height of an individual. The amount of hormone depends on the enzyme producing it, and the enzyme production will depend on the quality of protein and the coding by the gene. Whether a person is tall or short will be in your genes. Now that you understand the important terms in heredity, let us see how traits get transmitted from the parents to the next generations. Let us use the free earlobe and attached earlobe as the trait in our example. Have you observed the earlobes of people? Earlobes are the lower part of the ear. In some people, it is not attached to the side of the head and it is called as free earlobe. Some have attached earlobes. Let us consider that both the parents have free earlobes. Then, what is the probability that their child has an attached earlobe? In order to find out, you will need to refresh some of the important concepts you learned in the chapter on sexual reproduction. Recall that the gametes, sperm cell in males and ovum in female, is also a cell but different from most other cells. Do you remember how it is different? Yes, these cells are haploid cells. They carry only one copy of each chromosome. Do you remember how these haploid cells are formed? Yes, the process of meiosis. A single diploid parent cell gives rise to 4 haploid daughter cells. The different forms of a trait that a gene may have are called alleles. When a pair of chromosomes separates during meiosis, alleles for each trait also separate into different sex cells. As a result, every sex cell has one allele for each trait. The allele in one sex cell may control one form of the trait, such as having free earlobes. The allele in the other sex cell may control a different form of the trait, having attached earlobes. Notice the gametes contain the chromosome, and the chromosomes contain the genes, and the gene contain the allele. Capital E represents an allele that controls the trait, free earlobe, and small e controls the trait attached earlobe. That was about gamete formation. Now, it is time to recall the fertilization process you learnt in sexual reproduction. The male gamete, or the sperm, and the female gamete, the ovum, fuse together to form the zygote in the process of fertilization. During fertilization, each parent donates one chromosome. These results in 2 alleles for the trait of free earlobe in the new individual formed. Notice that the fertilized egg gets capital E and small e. Then, why did we refer to it as free earlobe? Capital E is called the dominant allele. Having one of the capital E allele results in a free earlobe, and small e is called the recessive allele. What is the probability of the child having an attached earlobe? There is a simple method to find this. This table shows that the mother will produce eggs with either a dominant capital E allele in them or a recessive small e allele inside. The father will produce sperm that are also either capital E or small e. If a capital E sperm meets a small e egg, then the fertilized egg will be capital E small e, and the child will have free hanging earlobes like its parents. What are the chances that the child will have small ee, which indicated attached earlobes? Yes, 1 in 4.